you, Mr. Chairman.
Admiral, let me, I just want you to reemphasize kind of what's at stake in the next couple days. If there's a government shutdown, another one, which we don't need, it would be unnecessary. By the way, you know, I know some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are talking about doing it because they don't want to fund ICE. ICE is going to be funded no matter what. They were funded in the budget reconciliation bill. So shutting down the government is not going to starve them of funds, but it will starve our Coast Guard of funds and the men and women of the Coast Guard and FEMA and others. Can you again just really emphasize that? I think on previous government shutdowns, the Coast Guard has really, in some ways, borne the brunt of some of these shutdowns. It's not right, and I really would like you to kind of emphasize that a little bit more, just on what would happen. It would just be completely unnecessary. We don't need to do this again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is critically important. The first thing is our people, when there's a lapse, they worry about whether they're going to get paid and when they're going to get paid.
Sure.
And it brings financial hardship. It brings worry and concern for them and for their family members. And when they're trying to be focused on being ready and serving their country, both our military and our civilian personnel, then that's a key factor to our ability to get the mission done safely. Yeah. It also, they may want to, they're not sure they want to keep serving sometimes if they're not sure they're going to get paid on time. And then beyond that, it interrupts our ability to do the growth that we need to do in Force Design 2028 and transform the service. So that keeping an appropriation in place, not having a lapse, is critically important.
Well, I hope all my colleagues hear that, understand that. It's just, I don't know, it wouldn't be constructive in any way, but particularly the Coast Guard being hurt and the members and the families and the stress, as you mentioned. So let's not go there. I do want to talk about the Arctic. You and I talked about an op-ed that was written by Alice Rogoff, who I know well, just in the Washington Post a couple days ago on the importance of the Arctic. This was similar to one that I wrote in the Wall Street Journal about a year ago called Greenland is Nice, but Alaska is Better. I'd like to submit that for the record. Everything everybody's talking about on Greenland, which is strategic, Alaska has in way more, and we already own Alaska. It's a great state. It's my state. So anyways, but let's talk about the Arctic. And the icebreaker numbers are great. We have this icebreaker gap with Russia, heck, with China. They're not even an Arctic nation, and I think they have more icebreakers than we do. So we're going to close that gap, which everybody wants to do. That's a very bipartisan issue here. It's been something I've been focused on my entire career here. We're starting on a really good front with the Storis being home ported and commissioned recently, but home ported in Juneau. It was a great event that you and I had the opportunity to attend back in Alaska in Juneau in August at the commissioning. The budget reconciliation bill has $300 million for the shoreside infrastructure to home port the Storis in Juneau. How do you think that's going? And are we on time, on schedule? As you know, in the previous Coast Guard Reauthorization Act, we were able to get the land transferred from NOAA to the Coast Guard to help that. But you think that's going well? And how can we keep pedal to the metal on all these issues? Part of the hearing is that we want to accelerate the great opportunities that exist in the Coast Guard across the country, across the world, and certainly in my state.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you. On Storis, thank you for the support in the budget reconciliation for the $300 million to support the pier and the waterfront facilities to permanently home port Storis there. And so we're moving quickly to be able to execute that funding and have that pier and infrastructure there ready by 2029. Okay. What we still need to do, as we've talked, is to get the funding for the housing. As you know, the housing in Juneau is not adequate, and so we need funding to be able to have the adequate housing that will support the crew and the families.
And if you put that through your requests, I'm very confident that this committee and the Congress will be strongly supportive of that. Let me go to the next issue. You and I have spoken a lot about, you know, as you mentioned, the next phase of all these Coast Guard cutters, the heavies, the mediums, the smaller ones. I'm sure Senator Baldwin's going to ask about the ones for the Great Lakes. But I know we're looking at some, especially for the mediums, a decision around, or not decision, home porting around 2028. You and I have talked about, I've said publicly, I can't imagine that you wouldn't have significant more Coast Guard cutters, where the ice is, where the action is, as I just said. In Alaska, I know you're not there yet. I know your team's looking at the home porting decision-making, but can you give me a sense of that, the direction you've given your team? I certainly would anticipate, as the chairman of this committee, a couple more icebreakers being home ported in the Arctic, where the ice is, and that means Alaska.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we've talked about this before, sir. The speed at which we're moving to build the Arctic security cutters means we're going to have to assign the people very soon, and we're going to have to make decisions in consultation with the department and then in communication with Congress on what those home porting decisions will be. And that'll happen in 2026.
Okay.
Part of the planning guidance I've given to my team as they present options to me, and I discuss them with the Secretary, is to start with an option that includes home porting Arctic security cutters in the state of Alaska.
Great. I appreciate that very much. And hopefully we can, when we're talking 2026, I'll keep pressing you guys. I think first quarter, second quarter at the latest, we want to get moving on that. But I appreciate your leadership on that. And with that, Senator Baldwin.